When we think about Alabama's rivals, the teams that come to mind are Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, and other SEC teams. And when we think about Clemson's rivals, the teams that come to mind are South Carolina, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and other ACC teams. But there was a small but prominent era in college football where Alabama and Clemson were the top two programs in the country, naturally creating a really intense rivalry. The Crimson Tide, led by Nick Saban, and the Tigers, led by Dabo Swinney, pretty much had an unofficial date scheduled before the season. Both teams were almost certain they would not only be playing in the college football playoff, but also playing against each other. The kings of the SEC and the kings of the ACC going to war once a year in January was something that every college football fan looked forward to seeing. Today, we're going to look back at the short-lived but very dramatic rivalry of Alabama and Clemson in the mid to late 2010s. Alabama and Clemson had a brief history together before the rivalry took off in the college football playoff era. They played 14 times in the 20th century, with Alabama winning 11 of those games. Clemson's only wins came before World War I. Coach Frank Thomas's Crimson Tide played the Tigers 4 times in the 1930s and won those 4 games by a combined score of 179-7. The two teams then took a 30-year break from playing each other, and when they started playing again in the 60s when Bear Bryant had Alabama as a dynasty, Clemson still could not win. After the 1975 matchup, Alabama and Clemson did not play for 33 years. They met again in 2008 in Atlanta for the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, and this game is remembered by many Alabama fans as the game that truly began the Saban dynasty. Alabama completely manhandled Clemson at the line of scrimmage. Are you guys ready for this stat? 0 total rushing yards for Clemson. The other side of the line of scrimmage was just as bad for Clemson, as Alabama ran for 239 total yards. With a final score of 34-10, this was the beginning of the end for Clemson head coach Tommy Bowden. After losing to Wake Forest 12-7 in Week 7, Bowden resigned as head coach, and the interim head coach for the rest of the season was none other than Dabo. He was already the wide receivers coach, but more importantly, he was the recruiting coordinator. Dabo posted a 4-2 record at the end of the regular season and was named full-time head coach due to his really good recruiting ability and the solid change in culture under his leadership. Meanwhile, Alabama finished the regular season 12-0 under Saban. If Dabo wanted to get Clemson to Alabama and Saban's level, it was going to take some time. While Alabama was dominating college football and winning national titles, Dabo was slowly but surely turning Clemson into a serious program. He went a combined 15-12 in his first 2 seasons as head coach, but had a breakout season in 2011. In that season, the Tigers won the ACC championship for the first time in 20 years. After 2011, Dabo hired Brent Venables as his defensive coordinator, and together they led Clemson to 3 double-digit win seasons in a row. Going into the college football playoff era, Clemson was seen as a program who could genuinely challenge Alabama. And let's just say, there were not many who could do so. The Crimson Tide won the 2009, 2011, and 2012 national titles. Enter 2015, the second year of the college football playoff. Going into the season, Clemson was looked at as a real contender to make it, but Alabama was considered almost a lock to make it. After getting upset by Ole Miss at home in Week 3, Alabama knew it could not lose another game the rest of the season. 2 weeks later, the Tide went into Athens to face number 8 Georgia, and I don't know what Saban did to these boys, but damn it, it worked. Alabama embarrassed Georgia, and this was the game that put the nail in the coffin for Mark Richt's job at Georgia. By the time November rolled around, Alabama looked as dominant as ever. Derrick Henry was putting up Heisman numbers, and the Tide offense overall was in a great rhythm every Saturday, as Jake Coker proved to be a pretty solid quarterback. Alabama's defense was elite, as it always was under Saban and Kirby Smart. Nothing new. The biggest test of the year for the Tide came on the first Saturday in November. Number 2 LSU came into Bryant-Denny Stadium undefeated, but they sure as hell did not leave undefeated. The Alabama defense held Leonard Fournette to just 31 yards on 19 carries. To put that in perspective, Fournette ran for at least 100 yards every game of the season before facing Alabama. Henry, on the other hand, had 210 yards on the ground for 3 touchdowns, almost solidifying his Heisman. The Tide coasted the rest of the season, finishing 12-1, winning the SEC championship and bringing home another Heisman. Now let's talk about Clemson season, and Tide Tiger fans knew this season was going to be special early on. In Week 5, number 6 Notre Dame came into Death Valley on a rainy, ugly night, and in a contest mostly led by Clemson, the Irish made a late surge, and the game came down to a 2-point conversion attempt where the Clemson defense stood tall. Dabo gave an electric speech afterwards, and this began what felt like a dream season for Clemson fans. Behind an explosive offense led by Deshaun Watson, the Tigers averaged 36 points per game, just a ridiculous number. The same night Alabama handled LSU, Clemson had a tough ACC test in number 16 Florida State. A 4th-and-1 stop in the fourth quarter by Ben Boulware and a 25-yard dagger touchdown run from Wayne Gallman sealed it for the Tigers, and the hypothetical Clemson versus Alabama national championship matchup talks truly began. Clemson finished the season undefeated after edging out number 10 North Carolina in the ACC championship. With the regular season over, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee sent Clemson to the Orange Bowl to take on number 4 Oklahoma, and Alabama to the Cotton Bowl to take on number 3 Michigan State. Clemson was up first, and the first half was pretty competitive. Both teams were able to find a solid rhythm offensively, and Oklahoma led 17-16 at the half. However, in the second half, Clemson's consistent ground attack between Watson and Gallman proved too much for the Sooners to handle, and Baker Mayfield was rattled by Clemson's front seven, and after outscoring Oklahoma 21-0 in the second half, the Tigers were headed to the national championship. They awaited the winner of Alabama versus Michigan State in the Cotton Bowl, and the Tide were just too big and too strong. A masterclass from Saban and Kirby. 0 points allowed. A shutout in the college football playoff. Henry put the punctuation on this win with the filthiest stiff arm I think I've ever seen in the college football playoff. I mean, that was just disrespectful. The national championship game was set. Alabama versus Clemson in Glendale, Arizona. And little did we know, this was chapter 1 of a new modern era rivalry. A game full of nothing but fireworks got started in the first quarter when Henry found the hole and broke free untouched for 50 yards. The Tide struck first. Clemson responded on the following drive with Watson delivering a dime to Hunter Renfrow, and the game was tied. Renfrow was not done making big plays, as on the next drive, Watson found him in the end zone again, and Clemson went up by 7. A stop by the defense gave Clemson the ball back, but Watson made a terrible decision and threw it right to Eddie Jackson. Alabama drove to the goal line with ease, and Henry punched it in to tie the game again. Both teams played well defensively the rest of the half, and they went into halftime tied. The first punch of the second half was delivered by the Tide as Coker found O.J. Howard all alone down the sideline to give them the lead back. Next drive for Clemson, Watson delivered an incredible throw to Artavis Scott at the back of the end zone, but that ball was punched out by Ronnie Harrison. Clemson settled for a field goal, but was able to finish its next drive with a score to go ahead by 3. Another stop for Clemson gave Watson another opportunity to extend the lead, but that opportunity was cut short after Rashaan Evans brought Watson down. Desperate for more points on third down, Coker stood tall in the pocket and connected down the sideline with Ardarius Stewart inside the 20 for a first down. A field goal tied the game, and in one of the ballsiest calls in the history of college football, Saban dialed up a freaking onside kick, and Alabama got the ball back. Look at this guy, bro. That was an evil smirk. Saban was a psychopath. The onside kick certainly paid off because Coker found Howard wide open again, and Alabama led by 7. Clemson then kicked a field goal to cut it to 4, and on the ensuing kickoff, Kenyon Drake saw a lane, raced to the outside, made everyone miss, and nobody was going to catch this guy, bro. Down the sidelines, he went into the end zone to make it a 2-possession lead for Alabama. What a game for the Alabama special teams. Watson and the Tiger offense responded quickly as Scott hauled in a touchdown, but Coker once again connected with his number 1 target of the night on a screen, and Howard took it all the way to the red zone to set Alabama up for the dagger. On 3rd and goal, Henry fought his way into the end zone, and after the replay center confirmed the touchdown, Alabama could almost taste it. Clemson did not give up. Watson found Jordan Leggett for a touchdown to cut it to 5, but the onside kick was unsuccessful, and in an instant classic, the Crimson Tide won the national championship 45-40 to give Saban his 4th title at Alabama. What an awesome game, man. Absolute shootout. Both teams played great. There were so many electric plays, and as I said earlier, we had no idea this matchup would become a yearly tradition for the foreseeable future. And with that being said, Clemson vowed for revenge. The Tigers knew that if they managed to get back to the college football playoff, Alabama would more than likely be there as well. The preseason poll had Alabama at number 1 and Clemson at number 2. Talks of a rematch in the postseason was a big story during the offseason. Clemson returned most of the team from 2015 and started off the season 4-0. Louisville and Lamar Jackson came into Tiger Stadium in a Hollywood box office superstar-centered matchup. Lamar played like the Heisman frontrunner and rallied the Cardinals to take the lead, but in the end, it was Watson and the offense delivering and the bring-your-own-guts defense standing tall to secure a massive ACC win. Clemson's next test came in Tallahassee, and this was another Hollywood box office superstar duel, this time between Watson and a running back, and that man was Dalvin Cook. Both of these dudes put on a show. Watson finished with 378 yards through the air, and Cook finished with 169 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns. This was a game of lead changes, dramatic moments, and big-time plays, but in the end, the Clemson offense found the end zone late to go ahead, and Florida State could not get in field goal range to tie the game. And with this win, Clemson had taken care of its 2 biggest threats in the ACC Atlantic. However, 2 weeks later, the Clemson defense had no answer for Nathan Peterman. He threw for 5 touchdowns and set Pitt up with time expiring for a game-winning field goal, and Chris Blewett didn't blow it, and Clemson fell to Pitt at home. Luckily for Clemson, this wasn't the BCS era where one loss completely ended the season, so as long as the Tigers won out, they would still make the college football playoff. That is exactly what happened, as Clemson won the rest of its regular season games, avoided a late comeback attempt by Virginia Tech in the ACC Championship, and the Tigers secured their spot in the college football playoff. Alabama, on the other hand, did not have as dramatic of a season. The biggest quote-unquote drama Alabama had in 2016 was the quarterback battle going into the season, but true freshman Jalen Hurts put an end to that battle after he balled in the season opener against USC. Outside of a fluky performance against Ole Miss in Week 3, Alabama kind of handled everybody on the schedule. With 7 returning starters on a defense that was already really good the year before, it was really difficult to score on these dudes. This was probably Alabama's best defense under Saban besides the 2011 defense. Alabama went into Baton Rouge in November and did not let them score a single point. Shades of the 2011 National Championship game in New Orleans. A late touchdown from Jalen Hurts sealed it, and like I said, it was a pretty anticlimactic season for the Tide. It was simply handling business on Saturdays for Saban and crew. Alabama finished the season 13-0, and the selection committee sent Alabama to the Peach Bowl to take on number 4 Washington, and Clemson to the Fiesta Bowl to take on number 3 Ohio State. This time Alabama was up first, and Washington just did not have the physicality to compete. Alabama outgained Washington in total yards 326 to 194. The game plan for Alabama was to control the trenches and conserve the football, and with that, the offense was run primarily through Hurts and Bo Scarborough. Washington could not tackle Scarborough. He had 180 yards, including the 68-yard dagger to put the Huskies away. Alabama won 24-7 and punched its ticket to the Natty. The Tigers returned to the building they lost the previous national championship game in, and they got redemption. It was an all-time performance from the Clemson defense. 9 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, 3 turnovers. Ohio State could not get anything going. JT Barrett was rattled from the very beginning, and the Buckeyes did not score a single point. The Clemson offense played well. Watson had 3 touchdowns, and a 31-0 shutout made the rematch official. Alabama versus Clemson Part 2 in Tampa, Florida for the national championship. It was early PTSD of Derrick Henry for Clemson, as Scarborough could not be tackled. A 25-yard touchdown run in the first and a 37-yard touchdown run in the second put Alabama up 14-0. It was a pretty slow start for the Clemson offense, but they finally got a spark when Deon Cain took a screen all the way into Alabama territory, making guys miss in the process, and Watson took advantage of it off a designed run to the outside to get into the end zone and get within 1 score. The rest of the first half was outstanding defense. Both front sevens were flying, and the secondaries contained everything deep and outside, and we went into the locker room with Alabama up by a touchdown. First possession of the second half, Gallman got the handoff and fumbled. Ryan Anderson scooped it up and took it to the 15. The Tide settled for a field goal. They definitely wanted a touchdown, but it was tough to complain about going back up 2 possessions. The 2 teams traded punts, but later on, Watson connected with Renfro, his favorite target against Alabama, on a drag. The 24-yard score cut the lead to 3. A detrimental moment in this game came late in the third quarter as Scarborough broke his leg after a carry for a first down. With how well he had been playing, it was a very sad scene to see. But 2 plays later, it would not be an Alabama-Clemson natty without an O.J. Howard touchdown. I swear, Howard and Renfro just became mythical whenever these matchups went down. On the next drive, Watson connected with various targets on short to mid-range passes, and this felt like a must-score drive for Clemson. Inside the 5, Watson lobbed up a fade to Mike Williams, and once again, the lead was cut to 3. On third down for Alabama, Howard stole a screen intended for Damian Harris, and Clemson was all over it. Alabama failed another third down attempt on its next drive as Hurts could not find anyone open. Third and long for Clemson, Watson found Leggett open, but he dropped it. Another third down attempt for Alabama was not successful as Hurts had Ardarius Stewart open, but he overthrew him. The biggest offensive play in a minute came on Clemson's next drive as Williams hauled in the ball while drawing a pass interference. Watson had a lane down the sideline on a designed run and got to the 1-yard line, and with Clemson just a yard away from taking the lead, Gallman punched it in and the Tigers led for the first time. Alabama had to score a touchdown on its next drive, and on second down, Ben Boulware ate up a screen to Harris and slammed him down for a huge loss. On third and very long, Hurts was heavily rushed and scrambling for his life. He somehow found Stewart right behind the first down marker. Harris hit the hole hard on 4th and 1 to extend the drive. Hurts delivered a screen to Stewart, but wait, he played quarterback in high school, and there was Howard at the sideline. Hurts dropped back. He had all day to throw, but nobody was open, and he had his sights on the goal line for the lead, and he got there. Alabama went back up 3. A 2-minute drill for the national championship began with a great kickoff return by C.J. Fuller. Rest in peace to a kid gone way too soon. On second down, Watson lobbed it up to Williams, and over Anthony Averett came down with it. Holy smokes! With time running down on third and short, Renfro hauled in a first down and Clemson spiked it to stop the clock. Watson pressured with under 20 seconds left, and what a catch by Leggett! First and goal, Clemson. Second and goal, Watson looking for Williams in the end zone, and that was a pass interference. Half the distance to the goal. With 6 seconds left, a touchdown would win it. Watson rolled out, delivered it, and there was the dagger. Shades of Texas and Vince Young. A 2-minute drill to win the national championship. Now, this play, of course, did draw a solid amount of controversy, as it was and still is heavily debated on whether this was an illegal pick play or not. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to discuss that in the comments, but with that being said, the Clemson Tigers defeated the Alabama Crimson Tide 35-31 to win the national championship. What an unbelievable performance from Watson. 36 for 56 with 420 yards and 3 touchdowns. And an additional touchdown on the ground. This dude had so much motion before all the allegations. Back-to-back unbelievable national championship games in what had become a real rivalry in college football. Going into the 2017 season, Clemson and Alabama had been solidified as the current top 2 programs in the country. High expectations were already the norm for Alabama, but Clemson was now at the point where every season was national championship or bust. With Watson off to the NFL, his backup for 2 years, Kelly Bryant, finally got his shot to lead the offense. Bryant was an athletic guy who was pretty dangerous with his legs, but he just did not have nearly the arm that Watson had. With this, Clemson was a run-heavy offense in 2017, and Bryant, along with 2 young backs, Tavian Feaster and Travis Etienne, led the way all season offensively for the Tigers. As for the defense, it was a talented bunch that only had 1 game where they gave up more than 30 points. They only allowed 13 points per game, absolutely a championship-level defense. Along with the lack of an explosive air attack, the other weakness Clemson had in 2017 was the schedule. Outside of Auburn in Week 2, Clemson did not play a single elite defense for the entire season, and this would eventually come back to haunt them. With Louisville and Florida State being worse than they were in 2016, it was a down year for the ACC. The Tigers lost to Syracuse in the middle of the season, but handled everyone else on the schedule with ease. Clemson finished the regular season 11-1 and played a top 10 Miami team in the ACC championship, but the Hurricanes were already mentally defeated as they got embarrassed by unranked Pitt the week before and had a terrible performance against Clemson. It was a blowout in Charlotte, and with a 38-3 win, Clemson was locked into the college football playoff. As for the Crimson Tide, it was just just the yearly dominance. The roster was absolutely loaded. Hurts returned as quarterback, but true freshman Tua Tagovailoa was really good as a backup. And he got plenty of playing time because in most games for Alabama, the starters were not in during the fourth quarter. As for the running backs, it was one of the most loaded running back rooms of all time. Bo Scarborough, Damian Harris, and Josh Jacobs returned, and true freshmen Najee Harris and Brian Robinson gave Alabama a running back room of 5 future NFL players. Has that ever been done anywhere else? Let me know in the comments because that is absurd. Calvin Ridley was the go-to guy for Hurts through the air, but 3 true freshmen in Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs were guys who showed tremendous potential. On the field, of course. The 2017 Alabama defense returned a ton of guys from the 2016 defense, and they just got even better. The Tide only allowed 12 points per game, 1 point less than Clemson. After starting 11-0, Alabama went into Jordan-Hare Stadium to face a very hot Auburn team and fell to the Tigers 26-14. The season was not over for the Crimson Tide, but they were going to need some help to get into the college football playoff. Alabama needed either Oklahoma to lose to TCU or Wisconsin to lose to Ohio State. After the Buckeyes defeated the Badgers, the question became, should 11-2 Big Ten champs Ohio State get in, or should 11-1 Alabama get in without winning the SEC? The committee ultimately decided to give the number 4 spot to Alabama, and would you look at that? Clemson and Alabama were going to meet in the semifinal instead of the national championship. New Year's Day arrived and the stage was set. Clemson versus Alabama Part 3 in the Sugar Bowl for a spot in the Natty. The Crimson Tide defense really set the tone early, forcing 2 3-and-outs and made the Tigers feel like it was going to be a long night. The first points of the game came off an Alabama drive where most of the yards came on the ground. They got into chip shot range, and after kicking a field goal, Alabama led 3-0. Clemson was absolutely swarmed by Alabama on its next possession. They kept the pressure coming, and on third down, Bryant was able to find Deon Cain open, but he dropped it. Alabama kept it simple on its next drive as the run game was still getting consistent yardage. Inside the 15, right before Hurts crossed the line of scrimmage, got it off to Ridley in the end zone, and the Crimson Tide went up 10-0. Clemson finally got something going on offense the next possession. Bryant was able to convert a third down with his legs, and Cain actually caught the ball on this drive, and the Tigers got into field goal range to cut the lead to 7. A slow, methodical drive got Alabama into field goal range on its next drive, but the kick was no good, and we went into the half with a 10-3 score, the complete opposite of the previous 2 meetings between these two. Just like the year before, the second half got started with a fumble, this time by Alabama, and Clemson had much needed great field position for its first drive of the second half. This next Clemson drive pretty much summed up this game. All 3 plays, Alabama stopped Clemson behind the line of scrimmage. This was just a Saban defensive masterclass, and it was no coincidence that this game was in the same building as the 2011 national championship against LSU, where Alabama allowed 0 points. Clemson kicked a field goal, and spoiler alert, these may or may not have been the final points Clemson scored. On the next drive, with Clemson actually moving the ball, Bryant was drilled by Anthony Jennings, and the ball landed in Daron Payne's hands. And the big boy took it into Clemson territory with a horse collar added onto the end of it, and little did Payne know, he was not finished having the football in his hands. At the goal line with Payne lined up in the backfield, he got himself open in the end zone and hauled in a touchdown. Absolutely awesome and hilarious at the same time. Down by 2 possessions with Clemson looking for an answer, that ball was picked off by Mack Wilson, and he took it the distance to give Alabama a commanding 24-6 lead. It appeared we had our first blowout in the Alabama-Clemson college football playoff saga. Clemson was down 18, but it felt like they were down 40 with how dominant the Alabama defense was. Alabama played slow, conservative offense the rest of the way and just continued to punish Clemson on the other side of the ball. It was certainly a nightmare that Dabo and Clemson wanted to forget. With a final score of 24-6, Alabama won the 3rd college football playoff matchup against Clemson and advanced to the national championship. Just an all-time performance from the Alabama defense. They sacked Bryant 5 times, only allowed 188 total yards, and did not let Clemson find the end zone once. Alabama went on to win a thriller against Georgia in the national championship game, and that marked the 3rd year in a row that the Alabama versus Clemson winner won the national championship. The trend may or may not have continued the following season. The 2018 preseason poll had Alabama at number 1 and Clemson at number 2. Both rosters were loaded from top to bottom. The biggest story for Alabama in the offseason was the quarterback battle between Hurts and Tagovailoa. Tua went on to win it, and he would have plenty of weapons lining up on offense with him. The entire running back room outside of Scarborough returned, and those freshman receivers from last year had a year of development under their belt and were ready to all break out. And with a veteran offensive line as well, the Alabama offense looked almost unstoppable in 2018. This stat is about to blow your mind. Alabama averaged 48 points per game. Tua was putting up video game numbers. This offense was definitely a top-tier offense in Saban's time at Alabama. And just like basically every Saban team ever, the defense was really good. Alabama cruised to a 12-0 regular season, but in a rematch of the previous national championship game in the same exact building, the Crimson Tide got punched in the mouth by the Georgia Bulldogs. Tua and the offense struggled as Georgia was the best defense they faced by a long shot. It was a pretty poetic ending to this game as Tua got injured in the second half, and this time it was Hurts who came in to save the day. The opposite of the previous matchup. Hurts gave the offense a spark, made some very impressive throws, and ended up scoring the go-ahead touchdown late in the game to win the SEC championship and punch Alabama's ticket into the college football playoff. Similar to Alabama, Clemson also had a bit of a quarterback battle in the offseason. Bryant returned, but the new kid on the block was the number 1 overall recruit in the country, Trevor Lawrence. A guy with an NFL frame, an incredible arm, a high football IQ, and a 2-time high school state champion. He was a proven winner. After the first 4 games, with both guys getting playing time, Lawrence was clearly the better quarterback, and Dabo named him the full-time starter. With Lawrence as the full-time starter, the Clemson offense exploded. While Lawrence was mostly known for his throwing ability, the dude could also run, and paired with the running back duo from last year returning, Clemson's ground attack was lethal. Renfro returned for his senior season, and he, along with Amari Rodgers, Justin Ross, and T. Higgins, made for a wide receiver room that was arguably better than Alabama's. In the games where Lawrence was the starting quarterback, Clemson averaged 47 points per game, almost right on par with Alabama. And what was crazy was, with how good the offense was, the defense might have been even better. The defensive line was probably the best overall position group in the country. Cleveland Farrell, Dexter Lawrence, and Christian Wilkins were all taken in the first round of the 2019 draft. And Austin Bryant on the outside was an excellent pass rusher who ended up being taken in the 4th round. Trey Lamar and Kendall Joseph were really physical linebackers, and the secondary was just like the defensive line in terms of being filled with NFL guys. Isaiah Simmons was an incredible athlete at nickel, and A.J. Terrell and Trayvon Mullen at corner were constantly locking down receivers and forcing turnovers. Clemson had a close call early in the season against Texas A&M, but that was with Bryant starting. With Lawrence calling the signals, Clemson beat the absolute hell out of everybody. Unlike Alabama, Clemson did not have a dramatic conference championship game. After beating Pitt 42-10, Clemson finished 13-0 and earned the number 2 rank in the college football playoff. Clemson was sent to the Cotton Bowl to face Notre Dame, and Alabama was sent to the Orange Bowl to face Oklahoma. Clemson was up first, and this was just an incredible performance from Lawrence. 27 for 39 with 327 yards and 3 touchdowns. The receivers all made some big-time catches. The Notre Dame secondary got picked apart. Granted, they were without Julian Love most of the game, but I'm not sure he would have made that big of a difference. The Clemson defense did not allow Notre Dame to get in the end zone once. The opposite of Clemson's semifinal performance against Alabama the year before, as in that game it was Clemson who did not score a touchdown. A dagger long run from ETN for 62 yards put the nail in the coffin, and with a final score of 30-3, Clemson was headed to the national championship. Alabama got off to a lightning fast start against Oklahoma, the classic Lincoln Riley big game defensive showing. The Crimson Tide were firing at all cylinders. They were up 28-0 early in the second. After that, the game turned into a shootout. Heisman winner Kyler Murray began to find a groove and really shut a lot of people up. There was a pretty vocal crowd that said he did not deserve the Heisman over Tua. I thought it could have gone either way, but there were people saying he just straight up did not deserve it. Even though the Oklahoma offense turned it around from the first quarter, Alabama really did not slow down and kept responding. The 28-0 deficit was too much. Oklahoma was never able to cut the lead to 1 possession. Alabama won 45-34, and just like that, we had part 4 of Alabama versus Clemson in the college football Football Playoff. But this time around, the hype was not as high as the previous years. To a pretty high amount of college football fans, the Alabama-Clemson matchup started to become old and repetitive. And I didn't necessarily knock them for that, as naturally fans want parity in different matchups most years in the postseason. But the problem was, Alabama and Clemson were operating at such a high level in this era that there just were not many teams that could challenge them. Nonetheless, on paper, this was set to be a really good matchup, two super talented teams with video game number offenses set to go at it for the title. The fireworks got started this year by the defensive side of the ball as Terrell picked off Tua and took it all the way to the house. From that point on, this game turned into a temporary shootout. Both offenses were on fire, and the way this matchup most people thought would play out started unfolding on the field. It was the complete opposite of the Sugar Bowl first half the year before. The question was, how long would the shootout last, and which defense would rise to the occasion and slow down the opposing high-powered offense? The answer to that question was the Clemson defense, as after Tua and Judy had a miscommunication and Mullen picked the ball off and returned it into Alabama territory, Etienne went on to score his third touchdown of the night, and this two-possession deficit seemed to make Alabama go into panic mode. Tua was rattled on the next drive, and the last time he was rattled, he did not perform well. Clemson went on to kick a field goal before halftime to go into the locker room up 31-16. Alabama got the ball first in the second half and actually moved the ball to get well into field goal position. But look at this, bro. Clemson was clearly lined up to stop a potential fake, and Alabama ran it anyway and got stuffed. This was probably the worst decision in Saban's coaching tenure at Alabama. I mean, what in the world was he thinking? Why didn't Alabama audible and kick a normal field goal? Just so unbelievably stupid. 2 plays later, Lawrence connected with Ross, and he raced untouched to the end zone. And this appeared to be the second lopsided affair in a row between these two teams. In a must-score drive down 21, Alabama once again moved the ball down the field, this time into the red zone, but on 4th and short, Tua did not cross the first down marker. And Clemson could all but taste it. Next drive for Clemson, Lawrence took a shot to the sideline. Ross, with one hand, bobbled it into his own hands for a first down. Lawrence felt the Alabama blitz, saw Ross near the sideline again, and what a catch! One-handed snag by Ross. Unbelievable. 3rd and goal, Lawrence poised in the pocket, delivered it to Higgins in the end zone, and this game was over. Alabama couldn't even pretend to have a comeback because on the next possession, they could not even gain 1 yard in 2 plays. Lawrence and the offense may or may not have stolen the show, but what an incredible performance from this Clemson defense. They made big stop after big stop. What a coaching job by Brent Venables. Alabama tried to pull the backup quarterback save the day gimmick with Hurts in the 4th quarter, but even that didn't work. Clemson chewed the clock, and with a final score of 44-16, Clemson won the 2018 national championship. I don't think a single person predicted a 28-point Clemson blowout, but that is what we got. And little did we know at the time, that was the end of the Alabama-Clemson college football playoff rivalry. In 2019, Alabama did not make the college football playoff, and in 2020, Clemson would have played Alabama in the national championship, but the Tigers fell to Ohio State in the semifinal. After 2020, Clemson lost its elite program status as the departure of Venables and the slow adaptation of Dabo into the NIL and portal era really killed the momentum Clemson built in the 2010s. Alabama, on the other hand, continued to compete for national championships up until Saban retired after the 2023 season. Although a lot of people got annoyed and tired of Alabama and Clemson being almost the guaranteed national championship matchup every year, it was still a fun time, and it gave us 2 instant classic national championship games. This rivalry actually ended up returning briefly as Alabama and Clemson played each other in the Elite Eight in 2024, with Alabama coming out on top. Not football, but it was still a high-stakes Alabama-Clemson matchup. But that is going to do it for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts on this short-lived rivalry and whether or not you would like to see it return. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.